And then we are also being critical about how we grow our infrastructure and line it up with our growth in our business. So we feel that these are the right decisions, and there is still room for us to reduce it further if we wish to. So we are leaving ourselves some discretion here to go spend money where needed.
And so where specifically will you be in terms of
you're
capital requirement?
Next. Boring bonehead questions are not cool. Next.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Joseph Spak with RBC Capital Markets.
Thank you. The first question is related to the Model 3 reservations, and I was just wondering if you could give us a gauge as maybe some of the impact that the news has had. Like of the reservations that actually opened and made available to configure, can you let us know like what percentage have actually taken the step to configure?
We're going to go to YouTube. Sorry. These questions are so dry. They're killing me.
Thank you. Our next question is from Galileo Russell with Hyperchange.
Hey, great quarter. Thanks for having me on the call to represent retail investors. I was wondering, with Waymo's plans to launch an autonomous taxi service in limited markets this year, if you could give us an update on the Tesla network and any details surrounding the launch date or geographic rollout. Thanks.
Sure. So, I mean, thank you for an interesting question. The long-term goal, where things are obviously evolving towards is a shared electric autonomy model. So, in order for this to obviously, for the whole sort of system to work, you need all the pieces in place. You need to have full autonomy, level 4 or 5, what do you want to call it? And obviously a lot of cars on the road, and then build the software infrastructure behind that to enable shared autonomy, so to enable people to share their cars and be able to offer their cars as effectively kind of a robo-Lyft or robo-Uber. It's sort of like a combination of, like, I guess, Uber, Lyft, and Airbnb type of thing, where you can own your car and have 100% usage of autonomous electric car. You can say it's available generally to anyone who wants to use it when you're not using it. You can recall it at will. You can restrict usage to only friends and family or only users who are 5-star. This is like the obvious thing that's going to happen. But in order for that to be in place, we have to obviously solve full autonomy. We're making really good progress on that front. I believe that the current production of the vehicles that we're currently producing are capable of full autonomy, with the only thing that would really be might be needed or maybe is probably needed is a computer upgrade to have more processing power for the vision neural net. But that's a plug-in replacement, a thing that can be done quite easily. So I think we're really well positioned and building the foundation for having millions, ultimately tens of millions of shared autonomous electric vehicles, which you can, like I said, decide not to share if you don't want to. And then in places
and specifically on the timing, the timing though, do you have any details about or when we could even expect to learn more about the timing of this service?
Well, the hardest thing to predict about the timing is regulatory approval. The thing that's tricky with autonomous vehicles is that autonomy doesn't reduce the accident rate or fatality rate to 0. It improves it substantially. But the reality is that even though we think autonomy, even the current autonomy reduces the probability of a death by 50%, which would be incredible because it's like if applied broadly, there's over 1 million, I think 1.2 million automotive deaths per year, and how many do you read about? Basically, none of them. However, but if it's an autonomous situation, it's headline news, and the media fails to mention that actually they shouldn't really be writing the story. They should be writing a story about how autonomous cars are really safe, but that's not the story that people want to click on. So they write inflammatory headlines that are fundamentally misleading to the readers. It's really outrageous. So, and this would be true even if electric cars were, if autonomous cars were 10 times safer. So that instead of 1 million deaths, you had 100,000 deaths. There's still going to be, people who will still sue and say, hey, you're responsible for the death here. And it's like, well, the 90% of people who didn't die are not suing. They're still alive. They just don't know it. So we got to deal with that, and then obviously regulators respond to public pressure and the press. So if the press is hounding the regulators and the public is laboring on misapprehension that autonomy is less safe because of misleading press, then this is where I find the challenge of predicting it to be very difficult. Yeah, it's really incredibly irresponsible of any journalist with integrity to write an article that would lead people to believe that Tesla autonomy is less safe, because people might actually turn it off and then die. So anyway, I'm really upset by this.
Yeah, really interesting answer. Thank you.
But I can also say from a technical standpoint, I think we'll probably be ready by the end of next year.
Awesome. And then one more quick thing on production capacity and speed of the Fremont line, because this is something you mentioned a lot, it seems. And in the last quarterly conference call, you mentioned the max capacity was 700,000 cars for Fremont, or somewhere around there, and that was S, X, and 3. And so we recently got a report from Reuters saying that Model Y production would start in November 2019 at Fremont. And so I'm just kind of curious, with the Semi and the Model Y launching next year, like, where are you actually planning on assembling these vehicles?
The Reuters report is based on nothing. Like, I don't know where that came from. We will not be starting production of the Model Y at the end of next year. I would say it's probably closer to 24 months from now. So 2020 is a more likely prospect for Model Y. Early 2020. And the production location for Model Y has not been decided. We're really crowded here at Fremont. I don't know where we put the Model Y production. So it's difficult to imagine that. We just could not fit the Model Y production at Fremont. We're jammed to the gills here. So one thing I know for sure is not here. It is crazy packed, and we'll try to figure out what the optimal location is for Model Y production, but it's not here. Not here at Fremont.
Okay. And I'm not an expert in battery pack technology, but it seems that a lot of people are speculating that the specs for the semi-truck, even I believe the CEO of Daimler said it breaks the laws of physics. So I'm wondering, is this just a linear...
He doesn't know much about physics. I know him.
Yeah,
I'd be happy to engage in a physics discussion with him. I actually studied physics in college.
So yeah, my question is that just a linear improvement in your battery technology, or is there some sort of new breakthrough or different platform that the Semi and Roadster are going to be built on?
Like, even if we didn't improve our battery technology at all, we could achieve a 500-mile range truck, at all. we're going to do better than 500 miles.
Yeah, this is JB. I think the key point is it doesn't require some dramatic breakthrough. There's a fundamental misunderstanding, I think, of what the current technology in our existing products can actually do.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just the misunderstanding of sort of the current status of the technology versus others in the industry. That could be where some of that's coming from. If they're benchmarking sort of the best battery pack they can buy, from a supplier, and then mapping that to what the Semi could do, it doesn't solve.
Right.
I think that's maybe where some of it's coming from, but we basically have what we need in house and understand how to do those specs today or better, as Elon said.
We could do a 500-mile range Semi today. I think the actual production unit will be above 600-mile range.
Awesome, great stuff. So I'm also wondering, are you guys going to let Porsche beat you to market with a 350 kilowatt-hour supercharger? Because I know you've mentioned, V3.
We'll keep going until the questions are not boring.
Yeah, I can keep going. So.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, so the
These are way more interesting.
350 kilowatt, the 350 kilowatt charger from Porsche, they mentioned they're rolling that out. On the last call, JB seemed to indicate that you guys were sort of going to keep the status quo with your supercharger technology, but Elon, I know you mentioned that there is a V3 supercharger, so I'm just trying to get some clarity on whether you will be improving your supercharger technology or not, and if there is a V3.
Oh, we're definitely going to be improving our supercharged technology. The thing about a 350 kilowatt charger is it doesn't actually make a ton of sense unless you've got a monster battery pack or have a crazy high C rate, in which case your energy density is going to be poor. So it's kind of cockamamie. Yeah, we think maybe 200 on a per car. Also, I don't know if they meant 350 kilowatts for a single car. That's really pretty. You're gonna frag the battery pack if you do that. There's no you cannot charge a high energy battery pack at that rate unless it's a very high kilowatt hour battery pack. So something along the I think I don't know, JB, like a couple hundred, 200, 250 maybe.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely sort of power level that we've discussed and explored, and some of it also comes down to an optimization around utility versus cost and trade-offs in the car itself. You kind of hinted at that, Elon, but there is a trade-off fundamentally between charge speed and essentially range or cost of battery.
Yeah.
And we look at that pretty carefully. We understand the trade-off, and we could design cells in a pack that could charge at faster than 300, 400 kilowatts, but it's not a very useful trade-off to the customer. That's
most people don't understand the difference between energy and power, even really.
Yeah.
Energy, obviously energy is essentially amounts to range, and then power is kind of like your peak acceleration, basically. The rate at which you consume energy. So, really, it's more important to have. It's more important to have long range than it is to have a super fast charge time. And you can sort of think about this in the devices that you use. Like, would you rather have a cell phone that lasted 2 hours but it could charge in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, let's say, but it only lasted 2 hours? Or you'd like a cell phone that lasts 2 days and maybe it takes an hour to charge?
Thank you. Our next.
Yeah, we'll keep going until the questions are still while they're interested.
Yeah, I have a couple more. For the superchargers, I know you guys are not trying to profit off of Tesla owners with that infrastructure, but will you ever open that up to other automakers and try and generate revenue from that system?
We've always said that this is not intended to be a walled garden, and we're happy to support other automakers and let them use our supercharger stations. They would just need to pay, share the costs proportionate to their vehicle usage, and they would need to be able to accept our charge rate, or at least and our connector, or at least have an adapter to our connector. So this is something we're very open to, but so far none of the other car makers have wanted to do this. But it's like not because of opposition from us. This is not a walled garden, trying to make a moat bullshit.
Okay, and maybe could you clarify what's the strategy? Like, it seems like that would be a very strong moat to have this network you guys have been building globally for years. So, why open it up, and why is that not a moat?
Sorry. Can you repeat the question?
I'm just wondering why that isn't a moat, because, as a long-term investor, I feel like the charging infrastructure you guys have built would take years and millions of dollars for another brand to replicate. So I'm just curious about the strategic thinking behind opening that up versus keeping it closed.
First of all, I think moats are lame. They're like nice in sort of quaint, vestigial way. But like if your only defense against like invading armies is a moat, you will not last long. What matters is the pace of innovation. That is the fundamental determinant of competitiveness. And for any given company, if the rate of innovation, let's say, like, competitors, maybe they come out with something new every 6 years. We're maybe every 2 to 3 years. So if our innovation is, let's say, twice that of any given competitor, then it is simply, this is true of generally of companies in any industry. Whichever company has the highest rate of innovation, unless that company is actively killed by its competitors in some way that's nefarious, or shoots itself in the foot, it will at some point exceed those competitors. Like, this was obvious that this would occur with Amazon and Walmart, because Walmart's rate of innovation was negligible, and Amazon's was very high. The outcome was obvious a long time ago.
And in terms of the Megacharger, I noticed you guys are going to be selling energy at a fixed price for those truck customers. So I'm wondering what the philosophy is there. Is it also you're going to operate that at cost and reduce that energy price, or are you thinking of that as a revenue stream for the company?
And we haven't really talked about any of that, and haven't finalized, frankly, any of that. It's we want to make sure that there's a very seamless and easy system to operate trucks wherever they need to go, and some customers may elect to work with us on the whole system or parts of it, but I think there's a lot of different ways that can be solved.
Yeah, for sure with commercial trucking, like a heavy duty semi, economics are fundamental to that situation. They're not making decisions based on aesthetics or consumer-related things. We made our semi. We're trying to make our semi kind of cool and sexy, just because we think that that's a good thing to do, not because it affects the buying decision of our customers in a meaningful way. It doesn't really move the needle. We got this like laughable lawsuit recently from some company ironically called Nikola. It's like Nikola is suing Tesla. That's hilarious. Fate loves irony. But they're like suing us because the way the trucks look, which is absurd. Nobody's buying a semi truck because of the way it looks, or because it's got like a wraparound windshield or whatever. Please. So the economics are incredibly important, and so we have to make sure that the superchargers or megachargers, or whatever we call them, for the trucks are set up in a way that that they have very low cost electricity.
One maybe slightly related point to that I think is super exciting about this is the potential to link up renewable energy generation at a very fixed and also very affordable cost, to power future trucking fleets. Ultimately, that can give customers an incredibly deterministic cost per mile that will not change with the price of petroleum over decades, which is really, really an interesting proposition for a trucking customer, and that's something that we're pretty excited about.
Yeah. Exactly.
I have one last one.
It's really worth emphasizing that. For trucking companies, like if the cost of diesel goes up 50%, it just like destroys their business. Yeah. And whereas with the sort of megacharger situation, combining having a solar battery powered megacharger, we have they have constant costs, and we know what they are. We can bake them in, and
It's predictable.
yeah, it's very predictable, and lower cost per mile than a diesel truck. But fundamentally, it's like, what is the cost? What is the cost per mile, kilometer of cargo? And that drives the commercial trucking market. I mean, you could have the ugliest truck in the world and it still would be victorious.
Yeah, super
Yeah,
exciting.
and building on that, do you have any thoughts on how the trucking market could change or potentially grow if you guys are actually able to deliver on dramatic cost reductions, especially with things like platooning?
I think it will take away quite a bit of revenue from railway, because the reason rail is able to be competitive is that effectively just platooning with lots of rail cars, and you need only a small crew to operate the train. However, trains don't go everywhere, so you have to have a truck deliver things to the train rail spur, and then pick it up, and then at the destination, a truck's going to pick it up from the rail spur over there. So you still have trucks plus train plus transfer. So I think platooning of trucks will quite dramatically affect the rail industry in a negative way.
Okay, last one, I promise. On Tesla Energy, I assume that you guys are basically supply constrained, not demand constrained on that side of the business. So I'm wondering how you're prioritizing residential versus utility scale, and in particular, how has this successful project in South Australia sort of changed the industry's perception of what batteries can do?
Yeah, I think it's had quite a profound effect. South Australia took a chance on doing the world's biggest battery, and it's worked out really well. If you read the articles, it's worked out far beyond their expectations, because the battery is able to respond at the millisecond level far faster than any hydrocarbon plant, and so its value in grid stabilization was much greater actually than even a gas turbine plant, which can normally respond quite fast. So it's kind of like if you get on Tesla and you have that instant acceleration. It feels like you're like a mind meld with the car. It's just like the car is you, and that same rapid response is true of the battery pack. So the customers the utilities that we've worked with thus far really loved the battery pack, and I feel confident that we'll be able to announce a deal at the gigawatt hour scale within a matter of months. So 1,000 megawatt hours, 1,000 megawatt hours for those that don't know what gigawatt is.
Yeah, maybe just to the first part of your question also, it is absolutely accurate that we are still, there's more than enough demand, and we are still building out of our demand backlog and actually increasing it slightly. We're trying to do our best to prioritize customers between residential, Powerwall, and utility and commercial. I'd say our longer term strategy is to shift a little bit of our focus and really catch up on our Powerwall demand backlog, which is it's too long right now. We know people are waiting too long. So I think that's generally the direction we're trying to take that. But Model 3 has taken a lot of focus in the last few quarters, and that trend is going to be reversing in the second half of the year.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate the time. Keep up the awesome work.
You're welcome. Thanks for the great questions.
Let's go to the next question, please.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Phil LeBeau with CNBC.
Hi, Elon. Question on the Tesla Semi. Can you give us some perspective in terms of how many reservations you guys have now and where you guys are in the plan for developing it and rolling out the first model?
My apologies. Sorry, we're just discussing something internally. Could you repeat that question?
With the Tesla Semi, how many reservations do you guys now have approximately, and where are you in the process as far as the development and the rollout of the first model in terms of timeline, when you guys expect that to happen, et cetera?
I actually don't know how many reservations we have for the Semi. I don't think
2,000.
About 2,000. Okay. I mean, we haven't really tried to sell the Semi. It's not like there's like an ongoing sales effort. So, sales orders are for the Semi are like opportunistic. Really, companies approaching us. It's just not something we really think about much. Our focus is on the Model 3. We need to get that to above 5,000 a week at a good margin. We need to become a profitable company. That is a good criticism that has been leveled at Tesla. An accurate one is high time we became profitable. And the truth is, like, you're not a real company until you are, frankly. So that's our focus right now. And we've got an awesome product roadmap. The Tesla Semi is one of those things. I think we've got a really good idea for the Model Y is going to be amazing. I'm really excited about that. Tesla Pickup's going to be great. The product roadmap, I mean, we have like way more cool things than we know what to do. Like, the idea generation far exceeds the ability to execute it. So we just need to stay focused and not divide our attention on too many products at one time.
And a follow-up, given the fact that you're already packed to the gills in Fremont, when will you make a decision regarding a second manufacturing facility?
So that's probably later this year. It has to be later this year. So I'm not sure of an exact time, but I don't know, maybe next quarter, but not later than fourth quarter for Model Y. And then we also expect to announce the location of a Tesla Gigafactory in China soon.
And will that second factory, when you announce it, will it be in North America, or is that going to be in China?
Well, I just said it's in China.
So the Gigafactory is there, but the second manufacturing plant will be in China as well?
Sorry. Oh, I mean, yeah. So, sorry. In the future, all Gigafactories will include vehicle production. So right now we've got vehicle production and battery production. Like, battery production and motor and power electronics and charger production are at Giga, and then we've got our Fremont car factory. But future Gigafactories will all incorporate vehicle production.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Excited by the fact, we're very appreciative of the fact that the government of China has announced that they will be allowing full ownership of manufacturing facilities in China. We'd just like to express a word of appreciation to the Chinese government in that regard. I should also, Robin, is there anything that you'd like to say or anything?
Well, we are in good discussion with the government, so we'll announce something when we're ready.
Okay. Robin Rand's here with me. Robin is managing worldwide sales for Tesla right now. He was born and raised in China. Won the physics Olympiad, as I recall. Anyway, but we will talk more about. I think the next earnings call or next, we'll have a lot more to say about that in the future.
Our next question comes from James Albertine with Consumer Edge.
And if I can be brief, I wanted to ask, given the coverage that you've received, as it relates to these high-profile accidents, one of the things we like most about your company is you have the most miles tested and continue to test daily from an autopilot perspective. Can you give us any color from what you're seeing in your data as it relates to the confidence that your consumers have in the autopilot functionality, whether they've used it more or less frequently in their existing vehicles, or whether they've opted to purchase the functionality more or less in lieu of these accidents, because we're really trying to get a sense of, consumer the ability for or the likelihood of consumers to adopt this technology over time. So this would be very helpful. Thanks.
We do see a steady increase in the number of the percentage of miles driven with using Autopilot. So as we roll out more functionality, as we make it better, we see a steady increase. I think it's something for cars equipped with Autopilot, something on the order of a third of highway miles, maybe a half in some cases in some regions are on Autopilot. But then of course, when there's like negative news in the press, then that dips. And then I was like, okay, this is not good, because people are reading things in the press that cause them to use Autopilot less, and then that makes it dangerous for our customers, and that's not cool. That's why I get upset. And then we get accused of blaming the victim. I was like, look, we're not blaming the victim here, but it is important that people not be under the wrong impression. The statistics are unequivocal that Autopilot improves safety, no question. In fact, one thing I was going to mention, almost forgot to mention, is that we'll be publishing our safety statistics on a quarterly basis.
Wonderful.
So that people know exactly what Autopilot safety is. Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? And it's like one of the common misimpressions is that when there is, say, a serious accident on Autopilot, people for some reason think that, or some of the articles think that it's because the driver thought the car was fully autonomous and it wasn't, and we somehow misled them into thinking it was fully autonomous. It is the opposite case. When there is a serious accident, it is almost always, in fact, maybe always, the case that it is an experienced user, and the issue is more one of complacency. Like they get too used to it. That tends to be more of an issue. It's not a lack of understanding of what Autopilot can do. It's actually thinking they know more about Autopilot than they do. Like quite a significant understanding of it, but less than they realize.
Just to clarify, Elon, so you've had two accidents spaced out pretty far. You've had dips during those periods when the accidents occurred. But to clarify your comments, you're seeing increasing usage, and you've weathered those dips based on where we are today.
That is correct.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Ben Kallo with Baird.
Hey, Elon. So I remember the Barron story. I don't know if it was fake news or not when you hung up on him about your battery costs. And I don't want to ask a mundane question, but I think it's important because one of your stakeholders are shareholders right now. And so far, we've had a couple push-outs in production. And is there a way that you can update us when you get to that 3,000 number or 4,000 number per week? I mean, you're active on Twitter. Can you just let us know, because we're going to have a big vacuum here, and there's a lot of news flow out there that makes volatility into the stock. It makes it hard for people to own, even though you have a lot of believers out there. And so even though we're being myopic right now, I think it's very important to get those kind of updates. And so I think that's my question. Can you give us an update when you get to 3,000 and 4,000 per week on the Model 3?
Yeah, actually, Tesla's such a leaky sieve of information that I think the news will leak pretty quickly. And also, people track registrations very closely. So at most, any information that we provide would be a week or two in advance of what will become public knowledge, just due to vehicle registrations and shipments that are tracked very carefully. So the problem is, like, people get too focused on like what's happening in the space of a few weeks or a few months. This is it's an old maxim of investing. You should not be focused on short-term things. You should be focused on long-term things. And we have no interest. We have no interest in satisfying the desires of day traders. Like, I couldn't care less. Please sell our stock and don't buy it.
I completely understand your frustrations, and I'm frustrated too on how myopic we are right now. They also say that great years are made out of quarters, and great decades are made out of years. So everyone's short-term focused in some ways, and volatility has a way of shaking people out, even that are strong and want to be there. And so, and anything you can do to help in the near term on that, I think is helpful for the stock. That's it.
I think that if people are concerned about volatility, they should definitely not buy our stock. I am not here to convince you to buy our stock. Do not buy it if volatility is scary. There you go.
Okay, and let's go to our last question now.
Thank you. Our last question comes from Alex Potter with Piper Jaffray.
Hi, guys. Thanks a lot. Not sure if this is going to be a hard question to answer. You mentioned Model 3 market share versus the 3 Series and others in that segment. To what extent do you think Model 3 is, I guess, changing the denominator, making that segment larger as a class versus what it used to be?
I think it will probably increase the total number of sedans purchased. Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
So you think you're pulling, X Accord buyers and Camry buyers into that class?
Yeah, we know this
example.
we know this because of the trade-ins. So we see quite a wide range of cars, including so like people that are trading in the cars they're not necessarily owners of a C-Class or an Audi A4 or a 3 Series.
We saw signs of it even with Model S.
Even with Model S.
So with Model 3, it's going to be even more prominent.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like also once we get to like the shared autonomy, ride-hailing thing, which could be as soon as the end of next year, but that's when it's technically ready. But then not long after that, I would expect some jurisdictions to give regulatory approval. The effective cost of ownership of a Model 3 or Tesla drops dramatically because you can share that car with others.
Okay, very interesting. Last one. You mentioned earlier you think the Model Y production is going to be a true sort of production revolution. If you had to do the Model 3 over again, there are some things that you would have changed, and you hope to incorporate those learnings into the Model Y. What specifically would you do? Or what specifically do you plan to do?
Well, I think let's save that for another time. We'll talk about that when we unveil the Model Y. But it's really going to be dramatically better. The design and production system, I think, really will be next level.
Okay.
So, but we'll
forward to it.
Bottom line. Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks everyone. Appreciate the good questions.
Okay. This is unfortunately all the time we have, so thank you very much, and speak to you next quarter. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for participating in today's conference. This does conclude the program. You may all disconnect and have a wonderful day.